This is Gerrymandering 101 BTM, which means before the Texas map, BTM. The current event, it's also an event from the past and an event from the future. It's called gerrymandering. The drawing of those political lines within your state to determine your state representatives or assembly, your state senate, and the members of your United States Congress. As I'm speaking to you right now, in the year 2025-26, it's a national issue. The focus is on the redrawing of congressional lines in the state of Texas. Now, I have to be honest and fair. I consider Texas Governor Greg Abbott and his wonderful wife, Cecilia, to be personal friends of mine. They've blessed me, and I hope I've blessed them too. But the issue, the media is painting this picture saying, how will the blue states respond to Governor Abbott in Texas? And I thought, I've been here before, and my argument would be that Governor Greg Abbott was responding to the blue states and not vice versa. The media's kind of switched it around, but let me share with you. I was blessed to be in a Texas House, and those who know me, I always say I'm a Christian, I'm conservative, I'm Republican. I've always run that way for 20 plus years, a Christian, conservative Republican. And I always fight because of my faith and values my mom and dad taught me, you fight hard, you only fight with truth. That's the way I have been in my life, in my Christian witness, and in politics. However, in politics, it's hard for a Christian or a person of Judeo-Christian values because you quickly find out that truth is not a requirement of the opposition. Case in point, when I was elected, I was the first Republican representative in my area for 130 years. In fact, it was the first time since Reconstruction, the 1870s, the first time in 130 years we had a Republican majority. And for those 130 years, the Democrats, the majority party, drew the lines for the House, the Senate, Congressional Lines. That's the way it was. But when I was elected, we had a problem. We had 2 election cycles where Republicans statewide means there are no boundaries. Within that state, for 2 terms, we had won the governor, lieutenant governor. We won both members of the United States Senate. Again, no boundaries. We had won all 9 members of the Texas Supreme Court, Attorney General, Comptroller, Land Commissioner, the 3 members of the Energy Commission. When we ran statewide, we won every race. There were 0 Democrat victories. And yet, for some reason, because the way the internal lines were drawn, gerrymandered, we had a minority of the Texas State House of Representatives. That's what gerrymandering is. So we felt, now that we had won, after 130 years, it was our turn to draw the lines. And the media went ballistic. So the media was coming out with this holier than thou. This is really not a good process. It's a partisan process. It's not really a fair process. And I listened to what they're saying, but I felt like, for 130 years, it was a good process. But now for the very first time in 130 years, Republicans have won the majority, and now suddenly it's a bad process. So I tell you that to what Greg Abbott was doing with Texas, and I respect that, responding to other states. I'm going to share today's Gerrymandering 101, BTM, which means before the Texas map, BTM. And I'm going to share with you 6 great blue states who are, in the chart here, you'll see who vote the majority Democrat. These are the states of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maine, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. And those 6 states, I'm using my example, are blessed. They have 23 congressional seats. If you've watched my program on the Great Compromise, every state has how many U.S. senators? 2. And how many members of Congress do you have? Well, it depends on your population. The greater population you have, the greater your representation. And the greater representation, the more what? Power you have. It's all about power. And if you look at that 3rd column, you'll see the Republican voting percentage. The last election, the percentage was Republican. You'll see Massachusetts has a very small 36%, so it's majority Democrat voting, right? Very strong blue state. Connecticut's 42%. Maine and New Mexico were both 46%. New Hampshire, 48%. And again, this is BTM, before the Texas map, BTM. There are 23 congressional seats, and you want to guess how many seats of those 23 were drawn to favor Republican. You might say, well, they're not going to get 42%, Mr. Mercer. Come on, maybe they'll get 33%. Maybe 30% would be fair. Well, the answer is, are you ready for this? The answer is 0%. Those 6 states with 23 congressional seats with their overall Republican voting strength of 43% gave the Republicans 0%, 0 seats. 23 of these congressional seats are Democrat, and again, 0, a big fat 0 Republican, even though they may have 46, 48% vote in other states, they have 0 Republicans. And that's just the congressional lines. That's right. If you're a Republican in these states, even though you have an average of 43% and a high of 48% of the total vote, you get 0 seats in the United States Congress. And a good mathematician would tell you, Mr. Mercer, to get 0 out of 23, that is statistically impossible unless you entered some other variable. Well, that other variable is what? Political gerrymandering. I saw one reporter who actually said, I wonder how the state of Massachusetts would respond. If I heard it correctly, she wondered how Massachusetts would respond. Unless you're using that old Common Core math junk, there is no response. They've already responded. And they did that before Governor Greg Abbott even called the first special session on redrawing the congressional lines. My friends, again, I encourage you, always fight hard, but only fight with truth. And that's what I'm asking right now. Let's begin with truth. The country, our nation, is so divided right now, and the question is, what is fair, what is right, and you get 0 representation. Can you tell me that is fair? This is Ken Mercer, Gerrymandering 101 BTM, which means before the Texas map, BTM. Always remember the strength of America, the strength. It's always been our faith and our values. Pray for America, and never forget that a place called the United States of America, in God we still trust. Thank you, my friends. God bless you.